how to choose a bank for your small business. Well, we're going to help you find that out. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. Okay, so when it comes to looking for your bank that's going to be your ideal fit, the reality is not all banks are made equal. And we're going to talk specifically about the two primary things you need to do when you're looking for a bank. Number one is you need to figure out who you're going to tee up and talk with first. So basically, how do we find the applicants? And I want you to think that they're applying to take your business. They're applying to work for you. They just happen to be wearing a suit and they're a banker. So the first thing is going to be finding the bank, and then the second is going to be interviewing the bank. We're going to talk specifics on all those questions. And actually, I give all that in my book, The Aspiring Solopreneur. And at aspiringsolopreneur.com, we've got a full course that helps people figure out how to ask the questions for bankers and attorneys and all this. But to build very safely a business plan to know you're good. So when we start talking about asking, when you're looking for who you want to actually have the interviews with, I'm going to get you to talk to a few different groups and ask who they would recommend. If you can get a referral, that's always better. So when we start talking referrals, think about other business owners that may even be in your same field. Who are you using as a bank? Do you like them? Who is your banker? And would you mind writing a recommendation? Now, maybe you don't know anybody in this space. It's okay. If you don't, that's all right. You can also go through the process and ask who you're using as maybe your small business accountant, or maybe it's your small business attorney. Who do you know who would be a good fit for small business bank? Now, some people say, well, dude, a bank is a bank. And unfortunately, it's not the truth. It's bullshit. Because there are certain banks that it's actually written in their charter that they are only going to do in their safety protocols or in their risk profiles. They're only going to do loans, and they only like working with larger companies. But the reality is that they can't tell you that. They're just going to take your money or make you take an application, do whatever it is, and they're just going to waste your time. So we're going to ask those specific questions. So first, ask other business owners, people you know. Talk to your personal board of advisors that you're starting to build with, being your accountant, your attorney, maybe an insurance person. Who do they know? Those three are usually pretty good connectors, and we'll have some suggestions. At a minimum, they'll have some suggestions who to stay away from. So once you have that, and if for some reason you can't find any of that, don't be afraid of knocking on some doors, Google, see if anything comes up from a Google perspective, and then start scheduling meetings to say, look, I'd like to come in and interview. I'm considering what bank I want for my business. Now, if you have a banker on the other side of the table, it's like, what do you mean you're interviewing me? I'm a banker. Well, you've already defined right there that they're probably not going to be your fit because they aren't going to be the asset, the connector, the resource that you're looking for. So in that particular case, hey, thank you very much for your time, and move on to the next one. But when you actually get to sit down with a banker, usually they'll invest 20, 30 minutes with you and sit there and make sure you're prepared and have some questions. So some of the things can be, what are the rate of return that I'm seeing for different types of savings accounts? Is it checking account? What sort of business you're setting up? And again, we talk about all the right things to do and how to do that in here, as well as on the channel. We talk about a lot of other stuff on this channel. But some of the key questions you need to ask when you're sitting across from the banker is say, hey, help me understand, I'm curious, how many businesses do you work with that look like me? That look like the bank I'm trying to do? Now, I'm not talking race or demographic. I'm talking more of, I am a marketing business. How many other small 1 or 2 person shops do you have that are marketing businesses? And if they're like, we don't really have any. Okay, that to me is a red flag. Doesn't mean that it's a no-brainer, but starts to be a red flag. But if you have somebody that comes back and says, actually, we've got 5. I personally know 5, and we work with them. We probably have more in the bank, and they're great. That says to me that they start understanding who you are and the types of problems and challenges you're going to have, and they're going to be able to help address that. Now, another thing you can do is you say, all right, of the loans you've made, how many loans were between, and if you're thinking you might need a line of credit for 50 grand or 100 grand, How many loans or lines of credit did you set up last year that were under 50,000 or under 100,000? And I promise you, there are big banks out there who won't touch anything under 10 million. But they're going to say, well, so they have to take your application. But if they say, well, actually, we didn't make any, well, they just saved you a bunch of time and realized that they're not really a true small business bank. So this can help you with it. Now, as you move forward, you can start to say, who are these others that maybe you're working with? Or start asking questions, would you mind making introductions? And see how they are as connectors. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But then you can say, hey, can I talk to 2 or 3 of your clients that just so I can get a feel of what this is, how this would work. And usually they're going to be okay with that. Now, they will have already had to get permission, so they're not violating any confidentialities. But it's not that uncommon. Sometimes it depends on some of the banks. Some of the banks will be uptight about it, but sometimes they'll give you a referral. But ideally, again, you got a referral coming in before. Now, the last thing is to ask, who is it at the bank I'm going to be working with? And if that means, well, it's whatever teller happens to be working, that gets a little bit dicier, because banking can be very much a relationship. Remember, bankers love to give money when you don't need it. They hate to give money when you actually need it. So if you can start working with a banker and have them even help you look at your business plan, and who else could I be talking to? A lot of times they can be great connectors. And if you have a senior level person, and a lot of times these are like more smaller community banks, which I typically like for smaller business. Like my banker, she's number 2 at the bank. She's the chief credit officer. So if I need stuff, she's great. And she's actually bailed my ass out of trouble when I've been overseas and things got locked up. She took care of it on a Sunday. That kind of thing creates loyalty, but they're there for you. But it's going to help you to start understanding, hey, who am I talking with? And I'm going to be able to create a relationship for the long run. Now, lastly, and I think you should do this in every interview, is ask, hey, what else should I be asking that I'm not? And keep your ears open. See if they have any other suggestions, because they usually do. So ideally, you found some value in this. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, or subscribe to the channel, check out some of the other videos. And if you like, go to Aspiring Solopreneur. Course is great. Keep smiling.